This independent MMO is completely packed with unique features and content. And today, I'll be taking you through it all, from its countless life skills and progression systems, unique combat classes and mechanics, and insane world with an old school feel like no other.
This video isn't sponsored, by the way, otherwise I would be living here. It's actually just because I'm addicted myself.
This is more like a drug dealer giving juice boxes to kids to get them hooked so they can capitalize on them later. Why I'm addicted is hard to explain exactly in a sentence, but to give you an idea, I was up at 3 AM this morning because I wanted to tame this boss tiger for my meditation martial art animal handling build. But to do that, I had to explore places I'd never been to before, which means I got another literally 30 quests along the way. And because every quest completed increases your relationship with NPCs, they will then teach you new skills, abilities, or give you access to new items in shops. So somewhere along the way of taming a giant cat, I became a tailor, an ice mage, and a nature appreciator who could now speak with a sentient subterranean race of mushrooms. I've rarely felt that moment of locking into a world that's so big it's almost overwhelming, where it feels like you could play forever and still not see it all. Project Gorgon did that for me, once in 2018, and then again today. Kickstarted in 2015 for a measly 75 grand compared to the monolithic funding other failed projects pissed away over the last decade, the game has steadily been adding content and updates in Steam Early Access for years now, finally releasing to 1.0 on January 28, 2026. An MMO, actually releasing. That's so completely unheard of that their active player base has surged, and they've launched new fresh start servers for all the new players jumping in. Project Gorgon is designed from the ground up with one feature in mind: discovery. Even the chat box has its own spoiler tags because of it. And the game paces itself in a way that's like slowly boiling you in a pot. By the time you figure out what's going on, it's 2 AM and you're thoroughly cooked. So like a lot of MMOs that have a decade of development history, Project Gorgon is really hard to talk about in a way that isn't just a massive information dump. So I'll be doing my best to go through each of the features one at a time, and then I'll piece it together at the end. At character creation, we're met with the choice between greedy humans, horny elves, and furries. You might notice two things though. There's a fairy, but it's locked, and there's no class selection. We'll come back to these. You wake up on Anagog Island, a neglected magic academy with undead, broken automatons, various puzzles and NPCs to introduce you to the game, and dinosaurs. A nearby sack has a sword, and a crate labeled free shovels sets you up for success. Pointy stick in hand, let's take out a nearby skeleton. Holy dopamine. Okay, let's break all this down. A lot of your character progression in Project Gorgon is centered around skills. Right now I have the sword and unarmed combat skills equipped. Whenever I fight an enemy, I will get experience in the sword and unarmed skills, as long as I use them in the fight. Later on, there's also extra equipable special abilities, such as first aid. Basically, whatever you use in a fight, you'll get better at. On top of that, you're also able to bury the enemy with the shovel you picked up for a compassion experience. If I had an autopsy kit, I could learn more about undead enemies. Or if I had a skinning knife and I was fighting something that had skin, I could skin it. There are over 90 skills in Project Gorgon, from sword to pig or alcohol tolerance and poetry appreciation. And while that sounds cheesy or like they're needlessly padding numbers, all of them have an effect on your character by granting you permanent effects, and all of the combat abilities can be paired together to make whatever build you like. Ultimately, all of these skills feel like you're getting better at things. A great example is teleportation, one of the first you get in the game. First, you'll unlock the ability to use a teleporting pad to return to another pad, but later on, you'll learn how to teleport from anywhere. And then, you can actually open a portal to send a whole group. And you know what? Screw it. What if we target the enemy's organs and then teleport those away instead? In Project Gorgon? Sure, why not? There's cross-pollination too. What's the point of knowing anatomy? Well, knowing enemy anatomy actually increases your crit chance against that type of enemy. Or dying a lot in unique ways gives you the dying skill, making you better at dying. Or was it not dying? And also a better necromancer. These skills aren't all thrown at you at once, and this is one of the way the game effectively paces its discovery. While early on you can start with swords, bows, and literal psychology, it's going to take a little bit more effort to unlock some of the more unique skills, such as weather witching and the various beast forms, or crafting skills. The game has actual role-playing trade-offs too. The best example of this is animal forms and the lycanthropy skill, where you can become a powerful werewolf. But, as an animal, most NPCs won't interact with you until you turn back into a human, which is manageable for most forms, except for lycans who during the literal real-life full moon can't turn back into a human for 3 days until the lunar cycle passes. Oh, and this is a permanent change to your character. You can't cure lycanthropy. Another permanent effect is actually at character creation. You have to unlock the advanced fairy race through another character on your account, and then you can make one. Fairies are small creatures who can fly at any time and start with their own exclusive fairy magic. The trade-off is that they have a hard time wearing heavy metal armors, and you'll have less inventory slots. Instead of the homogenization of classes you'll find in modern MMOs, here the game leans into the old school style of specialization and freedom with builds. Now, some people may feel put off by this, and already have, such as not being able to truly 100% on a single character. For me, I treat it like other RPG games, in that I'd make these decisions on a per character basis, or even build the characters around them. One thing I have to mark against the game, however, is that there are these permanent decisions, but you only get one character slot when you buy the game. To get more, you have to purchase a DLC. The game leans into its weird and wacky world. The introductory NPC constantly misspeaks your name, and the various animal players in the world will sometimes be a little tricky to understand through all their oinks and moos. This extends to the gameplay too. In the very first puzzle of the game, you need to enter 4 digits to teleport off the island. And if you get it wrong, you can end up pretty much anywhere in the world. So obviously, because the game pulls no punches, I ended up putting some random numbers in to see what happens. If you enter 0067 and teleport, instead of going to the safety of the starter zone, it'll literally just dump you into a dungeon in the late game. Clearly I wasn't the only one who tried this based on the amount of tombstones that are here, but because I was so far out of place, all I could do was die. Even after I left the safety of the so-called dungeon, I was just getting frostbite over and over again because I had no warmth or clothes. And eventually, after getting pushed in enough by the random mobs in the area, I managed to get somewhere close to the starting zone. Can't say it didn't warn me. After you experience all of this in the game's tutorial, by the time you meet hat-wearing giant mantises who were taught mentalism from a wizard, or you run past your first player spider using roller skates, you simply nod your head and say, yep, that checks out. Puzzles are a core to the game's discovery first design as well, from the in-game notepad in the quest journal to having to read dialogue or notes, which will give you lore experience, obviously. As mentioned before, there's even a spoiler mechanic built into the game's chat, and the community surrounding it tries to avoid spoilers in general. Not all of these are just quests either. Often you'll just be walking around the world and come across interactable objects and secrets, or random shrines and altars that demand items for their puzzles. Sometimes you'll unlock rewards or entire new passageways and shortcuts to areas through dungeons. Here I went through a sewer and ended up in the crypt on the other side of the map. It was genuinely unexpected and quite an awesome feeling to find. The game itself is fairly undocumented, partly because of its size, as well as the nature of the community itself. A lot of the time you'll have to interact with other players to get a better idea what's going on. For some people that's a turn off, but for some people that's exactly what they've been looking for. The zones in the world are massive and dense. As you unlock mounts, which you either need to tame and later breed yourself, or just be the mount, but that's like a whole other tangent, the world shrinks a little. But between my first 200 or so hours playing blind in 2018 to 2019, I never really finished exploring the first 3 zones. On my return in 1.0, where I'm starting fresh, I'm discovering new things that I missed during my first pass through. There are 12 regions in total, each sporting their own set of NPCs, skills to unlock, dungeons and puzzles, etc., and easily a couple of hundred quests in each. Progression isn't linear either. So you find yourself bouncing between zones to unlock new skills and get stronger before returning to previously visited areas you couldn't beat with a bit more power. In particular, dungeons have all sorts of pathways with varying levels of difficulty. Instead of being a level 20 dungeon all the way through, it can range from 10 to 40, all with different sets of enemies and rewards along branching paths. If you're a collector and you like leveling multiple classes, this gives you another reason to go back and explore old areas. The game pushes social play with all of its systems, such as giving players experience and other bonuses by spending time using their various music and dancing performance skills. You can also share food and alcohol, and there's community events like poetry slams, scheduled overworld raids, and gardening parties that have been going on for years. This is probably the most old school feeling part of Project Gorgon. Every zone and dungeon is part of a persistent, shared open world. There's no instances or layers, so you'll always be able to encounter people. There's no party or duty finders either, but through global chat and the various safe havens in each zone, you can literally form up at the tavern to head out on an adventure, which is what I did here. Very often, you'll see a person or two running through the dungeon, and if you throw them an invite, you can amass a party. This does come with the usual drawbacks, however. The same issues that plagued the MMOs of the era, with mob sharing and density issues, making a packed dungeon hard to farm in. The game tries to circumvent this through quicker boss respawns and rewards for its participation, and instanced loot through chests and bosses. For the solo players, the right builds and optimized gear will let you fight enemies and bosses far tougher than you, or you can outlevel the content without being punished. There's no scaling here. And for the more dedicated groups, you can create guilds which let you build and decorate a guild hall, as well as have guild quests to contribute and work towards with their own set of rewards. Combat itself is actually quite mechanically deep. You have health and armor bars. Armor acts as damage resistance that gets chipped away slowly when being hit, resulting in larger health damage over time. The complexity here is that there are various types of ways to focus on health and armor values, which give you extra opportunity for designing builds and grouping with allies. You could just focus on dealing damage, or pivot to dealing extra damage to armor instead. Or you can build around outright penetrating armor with poison and direct damage. Same with the inverse, supporting and tanking both involves healing and armor management. If we instead look at gearing, it's an ARPG style system with randomly generated roles, which can be further enhanced with crafting and augmenting life skills and player trading. Because of there being any possible combination of skills, most gear will be tailored to you as it drops. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. A base item that's a sword is terrible for my unarmed build, for example. This makes looting always exciting, as getting a legendary drop with your favorite roles is great and happens as early as level 5 instead of having to wait all the way until endgame to actually care. Preparation is important too. Meals, snacks, alcohol, flowers, potions, and all sorts of items created through life skills and the player economy will give hour-long buffs that all stack together to beat content that would otherwise be impossible. And finally, the NPC system. It feels a little weird to talk about it last, but the way that the player interacts with NPCs ties everything else together. NPCs have certain quests they will give you, and have a reputation system for each one. As you do quests for them, give them gifts, or hang out with them while offline, you gain favor, and it can do many different things. NPC favor can unlock new quest lines, more storage space, larger shops with more inventory and money available to sell to, new opportunities for gearing, all the way up to new skills and entire combat styles. And this is how you'll get pulled in 100 different directions on various objectives. The game manages this by having NPCs, quests, and various threads lead you to important or interesting locations. And you'll find yourself caught in another web. That is, if you didn't get distracted by the various mobs, puzzles, random events, or gathering skills on the way between A and B. Even if you set out with a specific goal in mind, such as unlocking a new combat style, you'll find yourself all over the place either unlocking other skills to get the requirements done, or in new areas which you'll easily get caught up exploring. There's examples of these old school ideas that are way too bold to be in modern MMOs everywhere. To the extent that if I was to summarize Project Gorgon in one word, it would be charming. This game is unapologetic and it knows it's a video game. Drink too much alcohol? Well, you'll get alcohol tolerance, but you'll slur your words in chat and your screen will blur until you sober up. Need milk? Ask a fellow player cow, just ask for consent first. Psychology is a great skill for doing psychic damage to foes by ridiculing them or going full Freudian, but why does it work on animals? Don't think about it too hard, sit back and see where the game takes you. Project Gorgon has a free-to-play demo and the progress carries over, so it's worth a shot. The full game is $25 USD, and there's an optional subscription in the form of VIP. VIP gives some convenience such as extra inventory slots, character slots, and a skill that gives you some offline progress, and also lets you log in all your combat data and chat data to log files for $9 USD a month. This for me felt completely optional in my time playing, compared to the games that have been designed with predatory practices in mind to sell the subscription, like Elder Scrolls Online. I just get it if you want to support the game. If you end up picking the game, take your time with it. This game isn't solved. There isn't optimized build guides or metas. Instead, you'll just have to try things out and discover things for yourself, or talk and engage with the community to see what works and what doesn't. Check the links below to get access to the Project Gorgon community, and a link to my Twitch where I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Keep in mind, I've only got 300 hours in the game, which means I don't know shit.